The overall theme of the session that ASSOCHAM has organized for today's next 1 hour, we are going to focus on steel. We all know the importance of the growth of iron and steel industry in the country like ours, and what kind of role it can play to really boost the economic growth of the country, which includes definitely a lot of job creation across the key clusters, be it in the east, west, or south, that it can create with the kind of growth that we can expect out of this particular steel sector. Uh, we have a very eminent group of panelists today. Our Manuniya Mantri Mahoday to saath mein hai hi, and with his august presence, we will get to hear from him about Government of India's views about the plans ahead, that how to boost the growth of the steel sector. But apart from that, we have some eminent personalities representing the sector at large, like Dr. Vinod Nawal. I'm sure Mr. V.R. Sharma is also joining us shortly, Mr. Ranjan Dhar, and like on the transportation and logistics side, we will also get to hear something from Mr. Vineet Agarwal and others, that what kind of challenges that we are facing on the transportation and logistics side, and how we can resolve these issues so that in a much more smooth way we can expect the both the inbound and outbound logistics to play out, which is very much required in order to get the growth out of this steel sector. Because all said and done, the overall cost for freight to take out material from point A to point B today in India is significantly high as compared to other developed economies, because we are too much dependent on road transport, and our ability to carry material from point A to point B either through rail or even through other waterways has been limited so far. It requires huge boosting. I mean that we all understand. So with these few words, I would like to hand over to Mr. Vineet Agarwal, who is also the president of ASSOCHAM, and I would like him to really set the context in a way by giving the welcome address. Mr. Agarwal, over to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chakravarti. Good afternoon, everyone. Shri Fagan Singh Ji, Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Steel, various dignitaries and speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to welcome Shri Fagan Singh Ji today, who has kindly consented to give the address at this virtual session. As you're aware, this virtual session on value creation through supply chain for the steel industry is very pertinent in the overall scheme of things and our ongoing summit on global value chain, backward and forward integration. As India works towards being a manufacturing powerhouse through policy initiatives like Make in India, the steel industry has a very important role to play. And in this, both the primary and the secondary level, the steel industry participants are revamping the approach towards production of steel and steel products by significantly transforming their supply chains. Among the many objectives include reducing supply side variabilities, technology adoption in all aspects of production, aligning with ESG requirements, a robust logistics chain, greater access to new markets, and finally, better coordination and engagement with the customers. When we look at each aspect of this supply chain, we find there are many areas that are ripe for value creation. On the supply side, access, availability, and the right price of ore, scrap, coal, or any other input for production is imperative to ensure a continuous manufacturing process. This is done either through a backward integration or through deep supplier relationships. From automation in handling systems to promoting quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis are some of the ways to move up the value chain. On the manufacturing side, investment into R&D for new and enhanced manufacturing methods for cost minimization, process optimization, and product maximization will lead to significant enhancement in supply chain efficiencies. with climate change a reality, a focus on environment, social governance, that is ESG practices, are especially critical for the steel sector. While the sector is acknowledged leader in recycling waste, focus on greater reuse of waste and better practices to reduce greenhouse gas emissions would propel the sector higher into the value chain. As Mr. Chakrabarti just mentioned about logistics, it is a critical aspect of value creation for the steel industry as it is a significant cost in the overall price of steel, creating backward and forward linkages in transportation and to use multimodal transport, moving from road to rail or to coastal shipping, will not only reduce costs but also reduces carbon emissions. And last but not the least, by increasing product segmentation and value addition, steel companies can create access to new markets and customers and simultaneously increase their price realization. This also creates customer stickiness. A lot of government policies have been announced, and I'm sure the minister and other members are going to talk about it. But I can definitely say that the goal towards value addition is very critical. ASSOCHAM was one of the first chambers in the country to actually recommend the manufacturing. I'm just giving an example of shipping containers in India. As we know that we needed to reduce the dependency of imports of shipping containers, as well as propel the domestic industry, especially in these current times when we are seeing an acute shortage of containers in the world. And I'm pretty sure that the steel industry, even with COVID, will align itself towards our country's goal of a $5 trillion economy. We have some excellent speakers today, and I look forward to hearing from them as we go forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agarwal, for setting the context and welcoming the eminent list of panelists. If I have noted down one key point from your setting the context, and I do kind of 100% agree on that, having working in this industry for the last 20 years, that if I look at the major challenges for the growth of steel industry, one of the key areas of focus perhaps must be that how to integrate on the forward and backward side. Especially if I may mention that specific focus is required to really bring out the additional fresh demand from the downstream, okay, by focusing a lot on the downstream and ancillary sectors. Unless the fresh demand in the domestic market also picks up, our per capita consumption in India is also not going to touch that coveted 200 kg that we are aspiring to achieve to from the current around 75 kg. So point noted, sir. And if I may now request Dr. Vinod Nawal, who is the chairman of the Iron and Steel National Council for ASSOCHAM, and definitely the deputy managing director of JSW Steel, one of the largest steel producing companies in the country today. And we would like to hear from him. Sir, before you start your presentation, if I may just, ask one question, and you can keep that in mind while delivering your overall presentation or messages, is that today, and I'll just carry forward from the point I just made, is that India has a high dependency on road logistics, okay, for now. Though government and many big players are actually investing in future or alternate modes of logistics, be it the railway siding and infrastructure, automated loading onto the rakes, belt conveyors, slurry pipelines, etc., etc. But are we focusing on digital capability enough on how to automate many of these things in order to bring in efficiency into the overall transport and logistics management, both for inbound and outbound? So over to you, sir. We all ears to you.
Thank you very much, Vidyutji. A very good evening to everyone. First of all, I warmly welcome Shri Fagan Singh Ji, Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Steel, Government of India. I also extend my warm welcome to my co-panelists, eminent guests, and all those who are attending this webinar. Shri Vineet Agarwal ji, President ASSOCHAM and Managing Director TCI. Shri Vidyut Chakrabarti, Director Mining and Metals Advisory KPMG. Shri Venkuta Sahu, General Manager. Shri V.R. Sharma, Co-Chairman, ASSOCHAM National Council on Iron and Steel and Managing Director JSPL. Shri Vivek Bhatia, MD and CEO, ThyssenKrupp Industries. Shri Ranjan Dhar, Co-Chairman, ASSOCHAM and National Council. I would like to begin by thanking ASSOCHAM for having us here at this webinar to discuss a very pertinent topic, value creation through supply chain for the steel industries. The theme and focus of this webinar gives a very strong, positive, and reassuring message that on one hand, the economic activities are increasing rapidly, especially in our steel industry, and on the other, we need to actively explore and exercise all possible avenues to create value through full of scope supply chain management. Steel industry role is crucial for making India a 5 trillion USD economy. Due to rapid increase in production, today India has become the world's second largest producer of crude steel and the third largest consumer of the steel in the world after China and USA. We are also the largest producer of sponge iron or DRA in the world today. However, despite all this, India's per capita consumption is still around 74 kg, which is just one third of the global steel consumption average of 22.45 kg. If we have to fulfill Honorable Prime Minister's Modi's dream of making India of 300 million ton, then we will have to increase the per capita steel consumption in the decade by 2030 in the range of 150 to 170 kg. I'm sure under the leadership of Honorable Minister of the Steel, this webinar will prove to be a great platform for discussions and brainstorming of the new opportunities and avenues for value creation in supply chain for a self-reliant Atmanirbhar Bharat. Value creation through the supply chain, as Vidyutji you have mentioned about on focus of the steel industry. There are few challenges and some steps steel industries are planning and taking it now, how we can mitigate all the challenges. ESG is becoming a very vital component in the supply chain. Both public and private companies are under increasing pressure from investors, civil society, and governments to make ambitious public commitments, covering all aspects of ESG, but especially carbon emission. For a sustainable supply chain, we have to be future ready. Challenges for the steel industries to remain cost efficient while being ESG compliant. You know, today, if you compare with the world, our logistic cost is 2.5 times if you compare with other industries with our competitors. To achieve this future ready supply chain needs to focus on following important areas, adopt breakthrough technology innovations with respect to energy efficiency and digitization. New green ways to transport bulk materials like pipe conveyors, slurry pipelines, coastal movements, etc. If you see now that there is a major focus on, especially on the slurry pipeline for steel industry to transport the iron ore. And that is a solution of the road transport and rail transport. And that is, in my opinion, 1/10 of the cost. Use of alternate fuels such as CNG, biodiesel instead of diesel, electrical, EV, hydrogen in futuristic. Shift from road to rail. In case of, since I am from the JSW Steel, what steps JSW Steel is taking, I would like to share with the House and especially to the Mantriji. JSW Steel is committed to reduce its carbon footprint in the supply chain by almost 50% by 2030 without any significant impact on logistic cost. In fact, we will be more cost efficient in this process. To achieve these, few initiatives are already under the implementations. Deployment of the BFNV rakes, increasing rail model share by deploying more than 100 special designed higher capacity BFNV rakes for the transportation of the steel coils from plant to customers. It will reduce congestion at plant, transit as well as public goods sheds by increasing rake payload capacity by 50% and ability to handle coils by forklift, enabling it to handle the rake at any railway sidings. Development of state-of-the-art smart multimodal coastal hubs in India. This will help in increasing rail share and decongest existing public railways goods sheds. This will also eliminate the material damages while unloading the storage. Transporting iron ore through slurry pipeline, as I mentioned earlier, and pipe conveyors. In Vijayanagar, we have put 24-kilometer pipe conveyor to transport 22 million. Same way, we are extending this type of the method of the material movement at all locations. Green supply chain, the conversion of the mining and heavy transport equipments like tippers, trucks, MBC, excavators, etc. from HSD to LNG, electric or hydrogen in future. Government should form a task force and special incentive for the design. This is a request to the Mantriji. Development and deployment of the such engines shift towards larger vessel usage and port capacity expansion. That is also need of the time today. Green shipping shift towards larger vessel usage will reduce the carbon footprint. Deployment of the own vessels to increase coastal transportation. Currently, we are moving more than 15 million ton of the coastal cargo. I'm talking about our Dolby plant, where we have just introduced 20 special design 8,000 WT MVC and will deploy more with our capacity expansion is there. Digitization of the supply chain is the one of the key focus now. We are currently implementing several digitization projects in below focus area, which will improve visibility, efficiency, productivity, collaborations, and reduce cost and carbon footprint. Real-time dashboard and data analytics, blockchain, EDI and ePod, robotics and automation, real-time tracking and cloud computing, smart warehousing and network optimization, big data and artificial intelligence. This is the steps JSW Steel is taking, and all the steel plants are also focusing it. But this is the requirement of the time, and we have to be competitive and we have to take all these steps now. Now we are looking forward to Honorable Steel Minister for your kind support towards our efforts and nation building. With that, I appreciate and thank each one of you for your patiently hearing to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nawal. You have touched upon a few of the important points that today that we are probably caught between the growth story for which we are dependent on fossil fuels with the kind of historical strength that we are carrying vis-a-vis the requirements of ESG today, which cannot be ignored for tomorrow. That is also as important as the growth that we are aspiring to achieve. So that's a good dilemma to be solved by all participants in the industry, government and and industry representations as well. Second, you have also touched upon the point about having a task force to look into the green supply chain opportunities in whatever optimization possible across the clusters where iron and steel are present in India today, and the future growth of expansion that we are aspiring in the states of Odisha or Karnataka or Chhattisgarh. Point well taken, sir. I'm sure that we are going to debate further as we go along. Uh, just if I may now request Mr. Sharma, I hope you're there, Mr. V.R. Sharma, who is the MD of JSPL and also the co-chairman of Iron and Steel of ASSOCHAM. If I may now request you, sir, I know you will share your thoughts, but I will start with a question for you that with the kind of expansion plans that are announced and some are also in principle approved by the respective state governments, I'm aware that JSPL is having a very aggressive expansion plan in Odisha. Like Angul, they want to achieve 25 plus million ton in next few years. So you have been observing the growth story and the kind of growth expansion plans all of us have looking at the NSP targets by 2030-31. What are the key learnings or takeaways, okay, in terms of pitfalls that we have observed till date, which can be avoided if we really want to achieve those targets on time, okay, as we go along to, if not 300 million ton, let's say 250 million ton of steel can be achieved by next 10 years. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you and good afternoon. माननीय श्री कुलस्ते साहब मंत्री महोदय जी, मेरे बाकी सभी साथियों, श्री डॉक्टर नवल जी, श्री साहू जी, श्री विवेक भाटिया जी, श्री विनीत अग्रवाल जी, एंड श्री विद्युत चक्रवर्ती साहब, धन्यवाद आपने मुझे इस गोष्ठी में बोलने का मौका दिया। माननीय मंत्री महोदय जी बार बार हमको किसी न किसी गोष्ठी में मिलते हैं और हमारा हौसला अफजाई करते हैं। मैं उनका तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं और आपके एफर्ट्स और आपकी जो सूझबूझ है उसकी वजह से स्टील इंडस्ट्री ने काफ़ी कुछ अपना मुकाम हासिल किया है। मुझे उम्मीद है कि आपका सहयोग और आपका जो आपकी मार्गदर्शन है वो स्टील इंडस्ट्री को हमेशा ऊपर उठाती रहेगी। बहुत ही अच्छा लगता है जब हम इस टाइप के टॉपिक के ऊपर बात करते हैं। आज का जो टॉपिक है वो सप्लाई चेन मैनेजमेंट के ऊपर हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं। सर, मैं सभी जो मेरे श्रोतागण हैं और जो मेरे सभी को पैनलिस्ट हैं, मैं उनको कुछ एक पॉइंट्स के ऊपर लेके जाना चाहूँगा। टुडे वी आर एट a level of about 110 million ton production in the country. And rightly said by Mr. Chakravarti, we intend to go to 300 million ton in next 9 years' time. It's a Herculean task. Everybody knows that the challenges are many and how to do it. And the biggest problem will be in times to come, that is logistic. As my friend Dr. Naval, he has already explained that there is a shortage of railway links, there is a shortage of right capacity of the goods trains. There is shortage of wagons in the country. There is shortage of port facilities in the country. There is shortage of harbor vessels, which can, India is a very long 7,000 kilometers of the coastal land, and we should transport material from Haldia to Kandla and Kandla to Haldia through the coastal route than by overloading the railway or by trucks. ESG, of course, it is a big issue, and all of us, we have to reduce the overall CO2 emission. And this is what my colleague, Dr. Naval, he emphasized in his opening remarks and speech. And also Mr. Agarwal, he also spoke the same thing, that how to reduce the overall ECG load. So the point here is we need about 4.5 ton of the raw materials to produce 1 ton of steel today through the blast furnace route. And we are sitting in Odisha, and in Odisha's calculation is following that we spend more than 5,000 rupees per ton for the incoming raw material, and then we spend about 3,000 rupees per ton of the finished goods. So that means for 1 ton of steel, we consume or we spend about 8,000 rupees. So 8,000 rupees is a huge cost, which ultimately a customer has to bear. So like, for example, today TMT or rebar prices are at about 55,000 or 56,000 rupees. Out of that, 8,000 rupees is a huge cost. So that is about 14 to 15%. On an average, the steel industry today is paying about 11 to 12% towards the freight cost. So we have to see that how to make the network enable and also make the network feasible so that the railway network is available to each and every port to plant and plant to ports. One. Number two, there should not be any congestion or the restriction at the ports. The port facilities are to be enhanced. माननीय मंत्री महोदय जी, मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा कि आज भारत की 4 पोर्ट्स के ऊपर, जिसके अंदर हल्दिया, विशाखापट्टनम, गोपालपुर और पारादीप, ये 4 पोर्ट्स के ऊपर आज करीब 15 लाख टन माल पड़ा हुआ है जो कि एक्सपोर्ट के लिए जाना है। इतनी स्थिति इतनी भयंकर है कि वहां पे ना मटेरियल रखने की जगह है, हमारे जो ऑर्डर्स हैं वो कैंसिल हो रहे हैं। तो आपके सहयोग की इसके अंदर और आपके मार्गदर्शन की जरूरत है कि आप मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ शिपिंग और पोर्ट अथॉरिटी से हमारे बिहाफ पे बात करिए कि कैसे हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा वेसल लगा के इस माल की निकासी कर सकते हैं। इसी प्रकार से बहुत सारे जहाज अनलोडिंग के लिए खड़े हुए हैं। तो जब तक हम पोर्ट की व्यवस्थाओं को नहीं सुधारेंगे, भारत का जो सपना है $5 ट्रिलियन का और उसके अंदर से हमारे को $2 ट्रिलियन का एक्सपोर्ट करना है, शायद वो सपना साकार नहीं हो पाएगा और भारत जो है वो आत्मनिर्भर भारत नहीं बन पाएगा। मेरा आपसे आग्रह है, मेरा अनुरोध है कि आप हमारी जो स्टील इंडस्ट्री है और जो बाकी यूजर इंडस्ट्री हैं उन सब के तरफ से आप प्रधानमंत्री कार्यालय में बात करें या आप जहाजरानी मंत्री से बात करें कि कैसे हम पोर्ट्स की दशा को सुधार सकते हैं। दूसरी चीज मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा कि बीच बीच में रिस्ट्रिक्शन लग जाता है, 3 दिन 4 दिन के लिए रेलवे लाइन बंद हो जाती है, गुड्स ट्रेन जहाँ पे खड़ी है वहीं पे जाके खड़ी हो जाती हैं और एक मूवमेंट भी नहीं हो पाता 1 किलोमीटर का भी। ये भी एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या है भारत के सामने, जिसका निवारण आपको ही करना पड़ेगा। सरकार सब कुछ कर सकती है और सरकार ही आगामी 10 साल के लिए जो सोच रही है कि वी हैव टू प्रोड्यूस 300 मिलियन टन प्रोडक्शन इन दिस कंट्री and out of that more than 50 million ton will be exported, 250 million ton will be consumed within the country. ये संभव नहीं हो पाएगा जब तक कि हम अपनी पोर्ट्स की दशाओं को या जो अभी दुर्दशा है जिसका उसको सुधारते नहीं है। इसके अलावा माननीय मंत्री महोदय जी और मेरे जो सभी साथी हैं, मैं आपका ध्यान आकर्षण करना चाहूंगा कि कम से कम 20 पोर्ट भारत के अंदर और बननी चाहिए। जो भारत का एक कानून है कि 70 किलोमीटर के दायरे में दूसरी पोर्ट नहीं आ सकती, शायद इसको बदलना पड़ेगा। जहाँ पे भी डीप वाटर है वहां पे एक नहीं 10-10 पोर्ट हमको बनानी चाहिए ताकि भारत से माल की निकासी हो पाए, ना कि एक्सपोर्ट के लिए बल्कि डोमेस्टिक मार्केट के लिए भी। As my friend Dr. Naval has told that we need a coastal service from Golden Harbor or from Haldia to Kandla. I mean, unless we do this, we cannot achieve the dream of 300 million ton steel production. As Mr. Chakravarti, Mr. Vidyut Chakravarti, you asked a question that what is going to happen, the expansions, how the expansions are going to be, what do we need so that we can reach to that level. I like to tell that the 300 million ton is a dream of Government of India, and Government of India is bent upon fulfilling this dream because they have already envisaged and calculated that this is going to be steel production and this is going to be steel consumption in times to come. When China can consume more than 1,000 million ton, that is 1 billion ton steel, why can't we consume 300 million ton, having the almost similar population directly or indirectly? So this is what is required. This is a country's dream, and to fulfill the country's dream, we have to have all this infrastructure in place, be it road, be it railways, be it waterways. माननीय मंत्री महोदय जी को मैं उनका ध्यान आकर्षण करना चाहूंगा कि आपने जो है वो गंगा सागर से लेके और वाराणसी तक आपने फेरी सर्विस शुरू की, जिसके अंदर अभी तक मास स्केल के ऊपर माल की ढुलाई नहीं हो रही है। हमको देखना पड़ेगा कि जब इससे छोटी नदी, जो कि जिस नदी का नाम है साइन रिवर, जो कि जर्मनी से बहती है, बुल्गारिया से निकलती है और जाके अटलांटिक ओशन में जाके पड़ती है, जब उस नदी के अंदर पूरे यूरोप का 37% कारोबार हो सकता है, तो हमारी गंगा नदी में भी हो सकता है। हम खाली टेक्नोलॉजी की आवश्यकता है, पानी को भरने की आवश्यकता है, पानी को रोकने के लिए अनेक डैम बनाने की आवश्यकता है, और पानी को जहाज को ऊपर उठाने के लिए वाटर को पंपिंग करके जहाज को ऊपर उठाने की व्यवस्था करनी पड़ेगी। जो कि टेक्नोलॉजी 1910 से वहां पे चल रही है, उस टेक्नोलॉजी को आज हम 2020 में और 2030 में भी नहीं लगा पाए, तो ये हमारे लिए एक बहुत ही दुख का विषय है। हमारी इतनी बड़ी बड़ी नदियां हैं, मैं कहता हूँ हरिद्वार तक हम वाटरवेज यूज कर सकते हैं, अगर जो हम सही प्रकार से गंगा के वाटरवेज का पर ध्यान दिया जाए तो इसके अंदर बहुत बड़ा कार्य हो सकता है। तो मेरा my point to all of my colleagues and dignitaries is that we have to bank upon on the waterways within the country. When in Seine River and Rhine River, when 37% of the total traffic of Europe can be managed, then why can't it be done in India? So this is what is required today. I think that is what the future of this country for tomorrow. The privatization drive taken by Government of India is very welcome. It's excellent, but we have to see that when we do the privatization, we do not bank upon on few business houses, because if we go for the few business houses, then the efficiencies will be a question mark, because each and every person, government, organizations, private sector, public sector, has some limitations on the administrative capabilities. If one business house, two business house, or 10 business houses, they are going to control the entire logistics, then it will be a very, very difficult situation, because it will be impossible for anyone to manage and to have those administrative capabilities and capacities that we can manage this show very perfectly. So we have to see, Government of India will have to see how to allocate the resources to the people so that will be useful for the industry and as a cost-effective point, at a cost-effective price. That is also most important. दूसरा पॉइंट मैं माननीय मंत्री साहब से, श्री कुलस्ते साहब से आग्रह करना चाहूंगा कि आज भारत की जितनी भी पोर्ट हैं उनके ऊपर अगर जो कोई भी जहाज आता है तो उसको साउथ ईस्ट एशिया जो कंट्री है, दक्षिण पूर्व कंट्री है, उसके अंदर उनके क्रू को चेंज करने की अनुमति नहीं दी जाती, जिसकी वजह से वो जो जहाज हैं वो या तो भारत की बंदरगाहों पर आते नहीं है, और आते हैं तो उनको 22-22 दिन इंतजार करना पड़ता है सी के अंदर जब तक उनका क्वारंटाइन पूरा नहीं होता। तो मेरा आपसे आग्रह है मंत्री महोदय जी कि आप भारत सरकार से अनुरोध करके और डिप्लोमेटिक लेवल पे जितने भी मुल्क हैं, जितने कंट्रीज हैं, उनसे बात करें ताकि भारत को जो टच करके जो भी वेसल जा रहे हैं तो वो वेसल्स सही समय पे वो माल को अनलोड कर पाएं और अपने गंतव्य स्थान पर पहुंच पाएं। Unless we take up the matter through the diplomatic channel with government of China, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, we will be unable to meet out the export obligations, and the cost of freight will keep on increasing day by day. जो $10,000 से $11,000 भाड़ा होता था मंत्री महोदय जी, आज वो जो भाड़ा है वो $35,000 से $40,000 जा चुका है। तो उसको हमें कंट्रोल करना पड़ेगा, तभी हम भारत की व्यवस्था को सुधार पाएंगे, और हमें डिप्लोमेटिक लेवल से हमारे को इनके अंदर सुधार की आवश्यकता है। दूसरा, मैं मंत्री महोदय जी से आग्रह करना चाहूंगा कि आप जो हमारी फ्लाइट्स हैं, जो फ्लाइट्स को स्टार्ट करवाइए पूरे यूरोप के साथ और ईस्टर्न कंट्रीज के साथ में, ताकि बहुत सारा जो इमरजेंसी के अंदर जो हमको सामान चाहिए वो हम बाई एयर मंगा पाए। आज की डेट में क्योंकि फ्लाइट सारी बंद हैं तो कोई भी एयर कार्गो भी सही सुचारू रूप से नहीं चल रहे हैं, तो इसके लिए भी हम आपको आग्रह करेंगे कि आप भारत सरकार से बात करके और बायलैटरल एग्रीमेंट के माध्यम से काइंडली आप फ्लाइट्स की आवागमन के ऊपर जो अभी आज रोक लगी हुई है उस रोक को हटाने का, उस प्रतिबंध को हटाने की चेष्टा करें, तो ये भारत की इंडस्ट्री के लिए बहुत ही लाभदायक रहेगा। दूसरा, एक लास्ट पॉइंट मैं आपको बोलना चाहूंगा कि आज जो भारत के अंदर पावर की जो दशा है, जो पावर की कॉस्ट है, अगर जो टोटल यूनिट हम देख लें और टोटल बिल है जितना आता है उसको यूनिट से डिवाइड करें तो 10 रुपए से 17 रुपए तक भारत के अंदर पावर मिलती है। आज भारत के अंदर स्क्रैप पॉलिसी आप लेके आए, लेकिन उस स्क्रैप का इस्तेमाल जहां पे स्क्रैप पैदा होगा वहां पे नहीं हो पाएगा, क्योंकि वहां पे 12 रुपया, 14 रुपया, 15 रुपया पावर की कॉस्ट है, जो कि इलेक्ट्रिक आर्क फर्नेस अगर जो कोई लगाता है तो उसको करीब 8 से 9,000 रुपया पावर की कॉस्ट पड़ेगी, तो वो प्लांट वायबल नहीं रहेगा। आपका जो सपना था कि हम ESG के ऊपर ध्यान देंगे, CO2 को रिडक्शन करेंगे, वो सपना साकार जब तक नहीं हो पाएगा जब तक कि हम भारत में एक भारत एक इलेक्ट्रिसिटी टैरिफ की आह्वान नहीं करेंगे। पूरे भारत में एक ही इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का टैरिफ होना चाहिए जो कि 4.5 या 5 रुपए के मध्यम होना चाहिए। 5 रुपए अगर जो पावर पूरे भारत में कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी तक मिलती है तो भारत के अंदर हर जगह पे स्टील के लिए इलेक्ट्रिक आर्क फर्नेसेस लग पाएंगी और वो चल पाएंगी। अन्यथा ये एक बहुत बड़ा एक नुकसान होगा देश को कि सारा का सारा स्क्रैप जो पैदा होगा वो नॉर्दर्न इंडिया और वेस्टर्न इंडिया में होगा, और वो फिर रास्ता उसको मिलेगा जाने के लिए कि उसका इस्तेमाल जो होगा वो होगा सेंट्रल इंडिया में या ईस्टर्न इंडिया में। तो ये बहुत बड़ा क्रॉस क्रिस मूवमेंट हो जाएगा, जिससे कि फ्रेट की भी बहुत ज्यादा हानि होगी, और जो हम CO2 रिडक्शन करने की सोच रहे हैं उल्टा CO2 बढ़ जाएगा, क्योंकि ट्रकों के जरिए ये माल जाएगा, ट्रेन के जरिए माल नहीं जा सकता। तो इसलिए मेरा आपसे अनुरोध है कि कृपया इसके ऊपर भी ध्यान दीजिए कि कब हम एक भारत एक बिजली की दर के ऊपर हम आ सकते हैं। जितना जल्दी हम आएंगे उतना ही भारत के लिए बेनिफिट रहेगा। सो दीज आर माय फ्यू सजेशंस. I try to communicate to Government of India. I try to communicate to Honorable Minister. I try to communicate to all of my fellow panelists here. Country is definitely emerging as a very large power, but these are the issues what we have to address. The other last point I like to tell that the coking coal prices in international market are today $240 to $250 per metric ton FOB Australia. What has happened? China is not buying from Australia. China is buying from Ukraine, buying from Russia, buying from Venezuela, Colombia, and America. And the European countries are buying from Australia. We are buying from Australia. So there is a crisscross movement. The Indian Ocean is full of vessels, coal vessels, today coking coal vessels. And from north, from west, the vessels are coming to east, and from east, the vessels are going to west. So this is something very unfortunate, that the international resources are being utilized in different manner. And most of the time the vessels are in water, and this takes about 50 to 60 days time, and that has created the shortage of water, shortage of vessels in the whole world. The other shortage of vessels we are seeing, not only vessels, also containers. So that is because of this quarantine issues. Everywhere all of the ports are stuck up, especially in Southeast Asian countries, and the empty vessels are not coming. So my request to Government of India is to please work on coal gasification. You have already taken a plan that you will be doing 100 million ton of coal gasification in this country. माननीय मंत्री महोदय जी, आपने डिक्लेयर किया था और प्रधान साहब ने डिक्लेयर किया था कि हम 100 मिलियन टन कोयले को कोल गैस में बनाएंगे। तो वो समय अब आ गया है कि कोल गैस बना के, जिसे सिम गैस बोलते हैं, उससे हमको DRI बनाना चाहिए, स्पॉन्ज आयरन, और स्पॉन्ज आयरन से इलेक्ट्रिक आर्क फर्नेस के माध्यम से हमारे को उसके अंदर स्टील बनाना चाहिए, जिससे कि हमारी जो टोटल CO2 एमिशन है वो हाफ हो जाती है, हाफ से भी कम हो जाती है, तो 50% से भी कम हो जाती है। तो जो भारत का एक कमिटमेंट है इंटरनेशनल लॉबी को पेरिस प्रोटोकॉल के अंदर, हम उसको भी निभा पाएंगे, और भारत का जो अनवांटेड कोल है, जिसको लोग पसंद नहीं करते हैं, वो एक डायमंड है, उसको भी हम इस्तेमाल कर पाएंगे। कोल गैसिफिकेशन की बहुत अच्छी अच्छी टेक्नोलॉजीज अवेलेबल है, जिसको कि हम अपने पूरे ईस्टर्न ब्लॉक, जो हमारा पूर्वोदय का जो एक सपना है, वो पूर्वोदय उसी से हो सकता है जब हम कोल को गैसिफाई करें, कोल से पावर बनाएं, कोल से फर्टिलाइजर बनाएं, कोल से लिक्विड बनाएं, कोल से मेथनॉल बनाएं, कोल से डीजल बनाएं, कोल से पेट्रोल बनाएं, और कोल से सिंगैस के माध्यम से DRI बनाएं, और DRI से स्टील बनाएं इलेक्ट्रिक आर्क फर्नेस में। So these are my humble suggestions and requests to Honorable Minister and to my all of the friends. Hope everybody must have understood what I have spoken in Hindi and English mix, so that at large the message goes loud and clear. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma. You have made some 4-5 key points which I could note down. And just for the very quick summary of the key points that you have already made, that one is definitely looking into the port infrastructure enhancement with new ports, plus the usage of technologies to debottleneck the existing capacities of the existing ports. Second, you also made the point about the privatization of the assets like NINL, RINL, and others, just to ensure that the assets reach in the larger group of hands, and not in the hands of only a few players, so that the assets are distributed kind of, if not evenly, widespread distribution happens, and the ecosystem can exist or coexist peacefully with the sustainable and profitable growth aspirations. Third point you made about the coking coal issues. There is a business case for rationalization of linkages, so that the delivered cost as well as the debottlenecking can happen in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, and you also emphasized on the importance of the usage of coal through coal gasification and other means in order to overall achieve a lesser CO2 emission that the country is anyway aspiring for. So these are the key points which are noted, sir, and I'm sure Mantri Mahoday will, kind of respond to all these points while he will deliver his speech. Just very quickly moving on, if I may now request Sri Ranjan Dhar, the Chief Marketing Officer of ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel. He is also one of the co-chairmen of the Iron and Steel National Council at ASSOCHAM. Mr. Dhar, when you start, if I may ask one question to you as well, and you can just touch upon during your speech, that since the first half of this calendar year, we have observed that whatever decline we had to see in the last financial year, especially in the first half, has been compensated a lot by the growth in demand, both in domestic market a little bit, but largely driven by the export market, especially China. And we saw a kind of, I would not like to use the word skyrocketing, but sufficient increase in prices of steel, because of which there was some kind of upward movement in prices, which everybody got benefited out of, especially the ISPs. And how do you see this particular trend to continue over the next 2 to 3 years, especially looking at the domestic steel market in India? And do you also think that the Indian steel industry, especially the large ISPs, need to revisit their sales strategy while they are focusing on export? Because there is so much of latent demand already exists in the domestic market. Your thoughts on that? Over to you, Sridhar.
Thank you, Bidin.
Yeah,
So I will answer Binju's question first, and then I will go to the supply chain part and the forward and backward integration part, because this topic keeps on coming, and much has been also said about this topic, but we'll clarify a little bit about what is being said about the price and the supply. And first and foremost, we have to understand that all this while, when the international prices were at a high range, India always and even today has operated at a discount. The discount from different market to market, different product to product, has ranged between $100 to as high as $300 to $400. So जो भारत के जो प्राइजेस थे वो अंतरराष्ट्रीय प्राइजेस से हमेशा ही कम रहे इस पूरे पीरियड में. तो जब अंतरराष्ट्रीय बाजार में प्राइस बढ़ा तो इंडिया में भी बढ़ा, लेकिन हमेशा इंडियन जो कंज्यूमर है उनको फायदा हुआ कि इंडियन प्राइसेस विदेशी बाजार के तुलना में हमेशा कम रहे. It was always lower. So naturally, Indian consumer has got was at an advantageous position as opposed to any steel consumer internationally. Now, whether Indian steel producers prioritized export versus domestic, if you see, अगर हम आंकड़े लेते हैं जनवरी onwards, जनवरी में भी international prices were higher than the domestic prices, but the exports were minimal. I think the January export number was below 10% of the entire industry. So exports will always be inversely proportional to the domestic demand. Whenever the domestic demand is low, international prices, the exports are high. And whenever the domestic demand is high, exports are low. You will see in the data pattern. When you see COVID wave 1 in last year, exports went high, as high as 50%. COVID wave 2 in this year, from April onwards, export went high. So it will be wrong to say that any Indian steel producer prioritize exports versus domestic. It is not true. First and foremost, the domestic demand is met fully, and then we go to the international market. Coming under the price, ये बहुत जरूरी है हमको जानना कि जो स्टील इंडस्ट्री का हेल्थ है उसके स्वास्थ्य के लिए जब ये कमोडिटी साइकिल्स आते हैं 5-8 साल में, 10 साल में एक बारी या 2 बारी, ये साइकिल बहुत जरूरी है ताकि इंडस्ट्री के बैलेंस शीट स्ट्रांग हो और बैलेंस शीट स्ट्रांग होने के बाद नया इन्वेस्टमेंट साइकिल स्टार्ट। जो अभी आप देख रहे हैं कि हमारे को एनएसटी के हिसाब से 300 मिलियन टन पे जाना है। All the steel producers have announced big capex. Talking about our company, ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel, which is a new company जो 2019 एंड में SRC ने एक्वायर किया, उस एक्विजिशन के बाद हमारे चेयरमैन ने अभी रिसेंटली बताया कि we are investing nearly 100,000 crore in the new capex cycle. And likewise, all my friends and other steel companies have announced huge capex. These capex will not happen, and the financial companies will not fund these capexes if the industry's financial health is not. So it is important that we do not disincentivize the periods which are healthy periods for the industry, because industry also has to grapple with unhealthy period financially. So on a long-term average basis, it is important not disincentivize these periods. Then only new capex will happen in the industry. And coming to the today's topic, it is important from even today's topic's perspective that the new capex happens. Then only the supply chain gets developed. आज की डेट में क्या हो रहा है, आज हमारे जो आपने कोविड के पीरियड में देखा, सप्लाई चेन डिसरप्शन हुआ। अभी ऑटो इंडस्ट्री इज ग्रैपलिंग विद अ ह्यूज शॉर्टेज ऑफ सेमीकंडक्टर्स। आई वाज विद मारुति सुजुकी रिसेंटली, दे हैव अ डिमांड ऑफ अराउंड 2 लाख गाड़ियों का डिमांड उनके पास महीने का आता है, लेकिन मारुति सुजुकी 1,20,000 1,30,000 से ऊपर गाड़ियां नहीं बना पा रही है क्योंकि सेमीकंडक्टर नहीं है। सेमीकंडक्टर सारा इंपोर्टेड है। इट्स गुड दैट टाटा ग्रुप हैज रिसेंटली सेड दैट इट्स सेटिंग अप समथिंग इन इंडिया। Likewise, the API sector, in steel, the petroleum pipeline sector, काफी कुछ वो import करते थे। अभी imported API is not available or not price viable. Now they are coming back to the Indian steel industry, and Indian steel industry also has to further enhance our API capacities. So all this entire virtuous cycle is linked somewhere. So we need to have capex, we need to have investments which will on a long-term basis support the domestic demand and domestic need. One important aspect of the whole thing is digitization. I think Mr. Sharma spoke about it a little earlier, and also I think Dr. Nawal. It is very important that this entire supply chain in India gets digitized. The reason is, if you see, earlier a lot of emphasis was not given into creating value out of the supply chains. I will give you one example, a live example. Today what happens is, when we supply, all of us supply to auto industry at a contractual prices. Now in the absence of digitization, what happens is a loose contract is done. They said, okay, this is the price settled for 6 months. You supply to our vendors, and vendors then in turn make components and supply to the auto industries. When there is digitization is not there are a lot of leakages which happen. Steel industry, the net steel supplied by steel industry to the vendors and what vendors supply to the auto industries, there is a leakage. Something they supply to the market because the contractual prices are lower than the spot market prices, so they do not convert everything into components and something goes into the market. We have noticed some of one or two such examples, and when digitization happens, these couple of auto OEMs and the big ones, they are currently implementing huge digitization program to arrest these leakages, because otherwise what steel industries are building for the benefit of the customer are not getting fully captured in absence of end-to-end digitization, and the benefit are accrued somebody at the intermediate stage. It does not go to the last mile customer. So I think it is all very important that we keep the steel industry incentivized for the capex to happen, for the ultimate the consumers. And Mr. Sharma just said to Honorable Mantri is that the power cost and the different cess in different states, जो अलग-अलग स्टेटों में अलग-अलग power cess है, उड़ीसा में 0.55 रुपीस पर kWh है और झारखंड में 0.15 है, तो एक that this cost disadvantage for the steel industry is not there. Even Niti Aayog has said कि जो हिंदुस्तान की इंडिया की जो स्टील कंपनियां हैं $80 to $100 के कॉस्ट डिसएडवांटेज में है as opposed to other industry, other countries, steel industry in other countries. तो इस चीजों को देखने की जरूरत है. अगर स्टील इंडस्ट्री कॉम्पिटिटिव रहेगी ऑन अ लॉन्ग टर्म बेसिस तो पूरा सप्लाई चेन और भारत का जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर है वो कॉम्पिटिटिव. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you, Sridhar. You have made one of the important points which really struck me, and I have been also thinking around this, that huge amount of capital investment is required to get to that level of 300 million ton. So just to put numbers in perspective, आज के दिन में we have around 142 million ton of announced crude steel capacity in the country, primary, secondary मिला के. So in order to reach to 300, हमें और भी 158 add करना है. If we take around a ballpark number of 7,000 crore per million ton, we need huge amount of money to be pumped in to reach to that level of 300 million ton of crude steel capacity. 70-30 अगर debt equity ratio पकड़े, it will be around $105 billion that we need from banks and other financial institutions. So it's a serious challenge. There can be solutions on the table, but definitely a point to ponder upon when we are aspiring for such kind of growth, especially considering that iron and steel as a sector is actually sitting on a huge debt book at this point in time. So this is a challenge in itself. Point noted, sir. Quickly moving on, I know a couple of other speakers and we would like to hear from them as they are not representing steel, but very important role play in order to talk about the challenges that we are facing there before we can actually request the Honorable Minister to share his thoughts. So very quickly, if I can just now request Mr. Boykantha Sahu, who is the General Manager, Easy Hall, to share his point of view on the theme of today's discussion. Mr. Sahu, over to you. Good evening, Mr. Sahu. Yeah, over to you.
Okay.
And if I may just request, it's my polite request to all of you, if you can just restrict around say 5 to 7 minutes to share your thoughts, because we are running a little late and we would like to hear from the Minister Sahab about his detailed speech. So just a thought to highlight to you. Sahu sir, over to you.
So I'm just going to give a small introduction about my company, what we are going to discuss today. So it's normally about what the road freight requirement for the steel and mining sector. So myself, Boykantha Sahu, I am taking care of the sales and operation of Odisha steel iron industry of road transportation. About our company, so this is actually new company in the India. So this company is formed in 2018, and we are doing a good job in the road industry. So in last 2 year time frame, we are growing around 15% growth, marginal growth in every month. And there's a few clients we are working with like JSW, Pidilite, Reliance, Jio. And currently we have around all Asia Pacific countries like Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, India. These are the 767 countries currently we are working with. So what is the steel value chain and how supply value chain is support this industry? So this is from starting from mining industry to the finished product. In between the production also be there. So this is the steel value chain and how supply value chain is support starting from the raw material like iron, coal, coking coal to plant through production center. Then from plant to the end consumer, so we are supporting the road transportation also. So there is a many obstacle is there in between from mines to plant movement also, like there is a road condition not good at all. There is a local issues, association issues. There is multiple issues there. So that kind of problem we are facing on the regular interval to give the service to our clients. The same way we are trying to keep adding much and more carrier in your platform so that we can give the better service to our client, so that we can have the increase the business volume and give the real-time transportation solutions and this kind of facility I want to give to. So currently in Odisha, we have normally working the major sector at Kendujar, Badbil locations. So from there, that location we are giving the dispatch the material to Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Paradip Port, Gopalpur Port. So other part of the India also for the iron ore movement. So currently we are already working with many clients from the steel industry. These are the few steel industry names like Mittal, Bhushan, JW, whom we are working with. So in last 18 months time frame, we are already acquired the good client in our platform and kept some good image in our platform also. Because of our because in current scenario, in not single local transporter doing the iron ore coal miner business, but the not any big organization like the EG or some other company not interfere in the same kind of operations. So now we go to do the business such kind of operation in Odisha segment. So we hope we can get some more clients in this segment and increase the more business. So what the challenge we are facing in the mining logistic industry? So there is because there is a huge high fragmental, then multiple layer of because there is a different kind of road transporter competitor is there. Then the high logistic cost because the fuel cost is there, local issue cost is there, villager also demanding the much money. So there is just still the cost is high side. So there is some challenges also every day we are facing the steel industry as well as the logistic industry facing in every day. Like manual process, still logistic industry not the digitalization platform. So everyone looking for doing the manual process. Lack of there's no tracking, there's no proper tracking the vehicle, where the vehicle exactly be there and when the vehicle will be reported and when the shipment will be delivered. There's nothing proper system is not there. So what EGL is doing, we are creating opportunity to how we can service to our client and give the better services like real-time reporting on how the digital expression working, how the pricing transferring to everyone, to the client, to the vendor, to the end consumer also. This type of facility we are trying to get better solutions. So
Mr. Shahu, if I may request you to kindly cover in next 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes, sure.
Sure.
So just going to the next. So actually, EGL give the real date tracking like the when the vehicle is loaded and when the vehicle is unloaded, and what the material, where the material on one full detail of the carrier detail is not about the we bring the vehicles from the market and give the service to the client. It's not about like that. We do the verification of the carrier that who are working with us so that we can the security of the material to the client. This type of we can give the KPI like that on in which segment, how much money we are spending, in which route, what is the unloading amount we are paying in each route, so that we can minimize that cost by providing such kind of report on weekly basis or monthly basis. So how already everyone know that the industry 4.1 is implemented in the year of 2011. So this actually helped for the logistic industry as of now because the automation facility is there, data storage is full, data transparency is there. So everyone know that when the shipment is there, where is the shipment and when the shipment is required. So actually I want to close this because I did not spend much time with you because the time already gone out. So we can close, and in future I want to spend with everyone how we can build a better solution, logistics solution with you, and how EG will be part of their company.
That was really nice, Vaikunta Sahu sir. We got a glimpse of what Easy Haul does and what kind of solution propositions you have for the larger steel industry in order to resolve the issues that logistic has been facing. Thank you so much for your brief but precise speech. If I may just now request Sri Vivek Bhatia, who is the MD and CEO of ThyssenKrupp Industries, India, to share his views, please. Mr. Bhatia?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chakravarti, and I'm conscious of time, so I'll stick to the time limit you've given.
Yeah.
So, firstly, Honorable Minister Shri Kulasteji and all the fellow panelists, I think thank you for a wonderful discussion. And I want to start slightly broadly. We have set an ambitious goal in India of a $5 trillion economy. And I think on the one hand, we have this objective of really strong growth. हम बढ़ना चाहते हैं, grow करना चाहते हैं economy को. And on the other hand, we have a large young population and employment is a big issue. And the third objective, which we also heard about earlier, there is a significant export potential we want to realize as we grow. Now, if we were to take a step back, and I've been regional CEO in Asia Pacific for ThyssenKrupp. I've seen what many of the other economies, so-called tiger nations, and also Japan, Korea, ANZ, what they have been doing. What is very fundamental to strong economic growth is competitiveness in two sectors. One is steel, the other is power. And if we have a competitive steel sector, and when I say competitive, I mean a cost of steel which is the lowest amongst all competing nations. And if we have power, which is the cheapest amongst all competing nations, by default, we will have manufacturing, which will be the most competitive amongst all nations, because we already know labor cost in India is perhaps one of the most competitive. So this is why this discussion is so important. We need to be able to produce steel at a much, much lower rate compared to all our competitive nations. And this is why I think it's such an important discussion. And I want to congratulate Dr. Naval and Mr. Sharma and Mr. Dar. I think all of you have brought out absolutely the right points. But let me supplement that with a few additional points from my side. Firstly, I think I was on a similar panel on mining and with the Joint Secretary for Mines, with the Secretary for Mines. And a very interesting point came out as I moderated that session. Our cost of mining is one of the most competitive in the world, but our cost of logistics is one of the worst in the world. So what happens is at the entry point of a factory, the cost of coal, the cost of iron ore, whatever it may be, simply becomes much higher compared to what it was at the pit head. And then this has an amazing cascading impact in a negative way on the competitiveness of all downstream industries. And I come from capital goods. We manufacture equipment, we supply back to the steel industry. We are working with JSW, we are working with JSPL, with all the major players. And this is the first observation that we have. Competitiveness in our price of steel is hurting, or the high prices are hurting us in our competitiveness globally and also in India. What can we do about this? I think apart from the myriad of points that have been made, all very valid point, I also want to focus on, bring the focus back on technology. So if we look at mining per se, what we look at is a very old school way of mining even today. We are still using dumpers, and it's a truck and shovel kind of approach that we still have. But there are proven examples. It is well documented. With mechanization, there is a opportunity to save up to 20% in OPEX cost. And these technologies, are available now for 15, 20 years, even longer in some cases. So even things like, earlier, there was a necessity to go around a pit head with trucks all the way from the bottom to the top. The angle you can cover is 3 degrees. Today, there are steep angle conveyors which can cover 30-degree slopes without battling an eyelid. And that has a tremendous impact on your extraction cost. So this is, mechanization is something I would really encourage all the industry players to adopt. And this is also something I would request the ministries to also encourage by really setting the standards and also facilitating this. The spin-off is with more greater mechanization, which is also electrified. You're avoiding the consumption of diesel, which is also a logistics challenge. To bring diesel and fuel into a remote site location and manage that is in itself a big challenge. So electrification is possible with the mechanization that we introduce, which will simplify the overall logistics scenario significantly. The other part is, and Dr. Naval touched upon it, and I was very impressed by his points, is really the conveyor technologies. And today, what can be achieved with OLBCs, overland belt conveyors, and with pipe conveyors is incredible. And we heard the example of a 24-kilometer pipe conveyor by JSW. And other players are really taking this up. But industry as a whole needs to adopt this, significantly, because again, the trade-off is capex versus opex, but the opex advantage really leads to a far more competitive product, which allows you to be competitive despite the cyclicality in the industry. And we know steel is a highly cyclical industry. So occupying a low end of the cost curve is a tremendous advantage to overcome cyclicality. The third thing I want to emphasize here is, apart from both of these, is also rethinking and reimagining the ways of, doing certain things. There are currently, there's a strong, India traditionally has been, working with people kind of a model. But what we are pushing through is a working with KPIs kind of a model. So focus on performance. And this is something that we are pushing through across the value chain, in mining, in material handling, even in steel sector, where we are emphasizing that, there are certain material handling logistics aspects on the inbound side where we can guarantee availability, where we can guarantee performance, where we can guarantee costs, which provides a lot of stability in the steel sector for them to continue to run their operations in a very, very competitive way. So these are some of the ideas. And lastly, I would say, I mentioned briefly the power side of it, and power is an important input into steel as well. So there are two things that I want to mention there. One is definitely look at waste heat recovery. That is a spin-off which can help bring down the overall cost of power. And the price at which we are seeing waste heat recovery is 1 rupee a unit. So 1 rupee a unit compared to 12 to 14, which is, some of the panelists spoke about, is incredibly, cheap, even cheaper than what you can get out of solar as of today. So definitely, I think we should look towards that. The other part is looking at rejects. So there are, during the mining process, we talked about coal gasification, but also in the washery process, there are significant rejects. And if you are using that in CFBC boilers, then again, your cost of power generation can be to the tune of 2 to 3 rupees a unit, sometimes even lower. So therefore, I think if we put all of these things together, if we bring mechanization to reduce OpEx cost, if we introduce conveying technology to reduce logistics costs, if we combine that with a lower cost of power, then I think we will be able to create a very, very competitive steel sector. And I personally believe, why 300 million tons? India should be much larger than that compared to where we are in terms of the need for infrastructure, the need for growth. And I personally believe steel is really, it is the anchor point of a strong and vibrant economic growth. This is the first sector that even China built up. If you look at Korea, they really built up a very strong steel sector around POSCO. If you look at Japan a few years earlier, again, that was built around a very robust steel sector. So we have to bring all this focus and attention on steel and its competitiveness for really achieving our 5 trillion, target for the economy, and also more importantly, to guarantee or drive up employment for the youth in our country. So with those words, I hand it back to you, Mr. Chakravarti, and hopefully it was brief and fast and to the point.
Absolutely, Mr. Bhatia. It was really very precise from your end. You have made some key points. The most important one that struck me personally is that we probably need to introspect the way that we have been doing our businesses. And there is enough scope to rethink and reimagine, especially with the use of technology like AI, Industry 4.0, and etc. that how it can actually debottleneck a lot of the things that we probably are kind of firefighting में जो हम लोग busy रहते हैं on a day-to-day basis. It can really free us all from all that. Thank you so much for that. Now, last but not the least, the most important one, and Mantri Mahoday, आपको मैं क्या बताऊं? You know the industry के बारे में much more, that what sort of issues the industry is facing. Just हमारा discussion को focus रखने के उम्मीद के मतलब उस objective के लिए, if I may just make some 5-6 key points. जो आप शायद अपना स्पीच में ऐसे ही कवर करेंगे. एक तो है रॉ मटेरियल एलोकेशन व्हिच इज बीइंग ड्रिवन एट द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट लेवल. आयरन ओर बोलिए, क्रोमाइट बोलिए, बॉक्साइट एंड मेनी अदर थिंग्स दैट इज हैपनिंग. बॉक्साइट इज नॉट फॉर स्टील बट आयरन ओर, क्रोमाइट etc. that is happening in a fair and transparent manner to the extent it can be, and probably other improvements will come over time. Second is about definitely the logistics and the forward and backward linkages. Focus on value addition through focusing on the downstream जो मेरा per capita consumption को बढ़ाएगा. Having a master plan in that regard ताकि each cluster के लिए plan हो, ताकि states can work across very collaboratively to work on this. Like the eastern states, like the Purvodaya project that has been conceptualized to focus on West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh together. The third point is hamara tax incidence is very high, one of the highest in the world, be it on the iron ore side or overall steel production side. Tax incidence is really very high, and there are some low hanging fruits जिसको हम लोग optimize कर सकते हैं, which can actually free up and bring down the delivered cost per ton of steel. Fourth, हमारे लिए capacity expansion जो financing वाला issue है, उसके लिए नया क्या options हम लोग लेके आ सकते हैं on the table, ताकि आगे जाके जो भी ये expansion plan सोचा जा रहा है वो fruitful हो, financing के चक्कर में अटक ना जाए. हो सकता है हम लोगों को international players को भी invite करना चाहिए, so that they also come and participate and build this capacity, not just the JSW and JSPL and Tata Steel. Maybe the POSCO and others should also come in. Just a thought on the table. The fifth is definitely the trading platform. We do not have any very transparent, acceptable trading platform, especially looking at the plight of the secondary steel players. जो बड़े प्लेयर्स हैं उसके पास तो सेल्स एंड मार्केटिंग इज एनीवे वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग, दे हैव कैपेसिटी टू बिल्ड. बट जो मेरा 40-45% ओवरऑल कैपेसिटी में जो सेकेंडरी स्टील सेक्टर प्लेयर्स हैं, उसके लिए अगर कोई ई मार्केट प्लेस हो जहां पे B2B एज वेल एज B2C ट्रांजैक्शंस स्मूथली हो सके इन अ फेयर एंड ट्रांसपेरेंट मैनर, एंड द प्राइसेस विल बी डिटरमिन्ड फ्रॉम डिमांड सप्लाई. ओके, वो एक. So these are some of the thoughts that we had. Plus you have आप तो बाकी eminent speakers से already सुने हैं सर. So now we request you, आपसे अनुरोध करते हैं कि आपका जो thoughts हैं, if you can kindly share with us, and all ears to you sir. Over to you sir.
धन्यवाद पाल जी. ग्लोबल वैल्यू चेन, बैकवर्ड एंड फॉरवर्ड इंटीग्रेशन, इस वैश्विक वर्चुअल सम्मेलन में वैश्विक मूल्य श्रृंखला, प्रतिगामी और अग्रगामी एकीकृत इस्पात उद्योग के लिए आपूर्ति श्रृंखला के जरिए मूल्य सृजन, और विशेषकर आज इसे वैश्विक वर्चुअल रैली में, इस सम्मेलन में हमारे एसोचैम के अध्यक्ष श्री विनीत अग्रवाल जी, हमारे श्री विद्युत चक्रवर्ती जी, निदेशक माइनिंग एंड मेटल एडवाइजरी KPMG, डॉक्टर विनोद नोवल जी, टीम मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, श्री वैकुंठ साहू जी, जनरल मैनेजर हज हॉल, श्री PR शर्मा जी, मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर JSPL, श्री विवेक भाटिया जी, MD, श्री जन हर जी, और यहाँ इस वर्चुअल सम्मेलन में उपस्थित सभी देवी और सज्जनों, आज विशेषकर मैं हमारे सभी विद्वानों का और विशेषकर स्टील सेक्टर में, माइनिंग के सेक्टर में अलग अलग जो हमारे स्पीकर हैं उनको भी मैंने सुना है। सबसे पहले मैं आप सबको नमस्कार करता हूं और विशेषकर सबसे पहले एसोचैम को इस समूचे सप्ताह के इस दौरान वैश्विक मूल्य श्रृंखला पर आधारित इस अपूर्व सीरीज का आयोजन करने के लिए मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं। और विगत कुछ वर्षों में सरकार की नीतियों में महत्वपूर्ण परिवर्तन आया ताकि वैश्विक प्रतिस्पर्धात्मक को प्रभावी करने वाले मुद्दों में से कुछ मुद्दों पर ध्यान दिया जा सके। आत्मनिर्भर भारत की अवधारणा का प्रमुख आधार स्वदेशी उद्योगों के गतिविधि क्षेत्र को घरेलू बाजार की परिसीमाओं से बाहर विस्तारित करने और वैश्विक मूल्य श्रृंखला में सने सने प्रवेश करने की इसकी क्षमता है। किसी भी प्रतिस्पर्धात्मक वैश्विक बाजार में संगठनों द्वारा लागत को ध्यान में रखते हुए कच्चे माल की त्वरित उपलब्धता के साथ अपनी लॉजिस्टिक लागत में अनिवार्य रूप से कमी लानी चाहिए। भारत में लॉजिस्टिक लागत GDP का 16% है, जबकि अमेरिका, जापान, चीन जैसे अन्य देशों में यह GDP का 7-8% है। आपूर्तिकर्ता की लागत को कम करने के लिए कई इस्पात उद्योगों ने सस्ती और संपोषणीय लागत पर सामग्री की उपलब्धता के लिए अपने विनिर्माण स्थलों को समुद्री बंदरगाह अथवा संयोजक स्थलों के नजदीक स्थानांतरित करना शुरू कर दिया है। और इसलिए अभी जी जब बोल रहे थे उस समय तो हमारे सारे उससे बोर्ड की बात वो कर रहे थे, हमने बंदरगाहों की जब बात कर रहे थे। और निश्चित तौर से इसके बारे में आप सबको याद होगा कि हमने जितने भी इस प्रकार के स्थलों का चयन भी किया और नजदीकी स्थानांतरित करना शुरू कर दिया है। धीरे धीरे हम इसके विस्तार में भी आगे जाना चाहते हैं। जैसे जैसे हमारे पास इसकी संभावनाएं और आप लोगों के जो सजेशंस भी आ रहे हैं उनको भी ध्यान में रखते हुए इन सब परिस्थितियों के बारे में चिंता करना, ताकि ट्रांसपोर्टिंग के क्षेत्र में हम इसको और कैसे व्यवस्थित कर सकते हैं, ये हमारी कोशिश है। जैसा कि आप जानते हैं कि 1 टन फिनिश्ड इस्पात के उत्पादन एवं उसे अंतिम उपभोक्ता तक पहुंचाने के लिए लगभग 4 टन मटेरियल का ढुलाई किया जाता है। और इसलिए माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में हमारी सरकार क्लस्टर आधारित उद्योग लगाने पर काम कर रही है। हमारी सरकार उद्योगों को बढ़ावा देने एवं आपूर्ति श्रृंखला को मजबूत करने के लिए नेशनल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्टों पर 1.1 लाख करोड़ से ज्यादा की राशि खर्च कर रही है। आयरन ओर की ढुलाई को सुगम बनाने के लिए स्लरी पाइपलाइन का निर्माण किया जा रहा है, जो कि सरकारी क्षेत्र की कंपनियों के साथ निजी क्षेत्र की कंपनियों के द्वारा लगाया जा रहा है। और अभी तक के प्रोजेक्ट के आधार पर लगभग 25,000 करोड़ रुपए खर्च होगा। हमारी सरकार लॉजिस्टिक को मजबूत करने के लिए डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर, सबरीमाला जैसे अन्य परियोजनाओं पर काम कर रही है, जिससे माल ढुलाई में सुगमता से उत्पाद की लागत कम होगी तथा समय की बचत होगी और प्रतिस्पर्धी बनेगा। आप सब जानते हैं कि अभी इस बात के लिए भी आप लोगों ने सागरमाला के बारे में भी, वाटरवेज के बारे में भी आप लोगों ने कहा। निश्चित तौर से हम इस बात के लिए प्रयास कर रहे हैं और इसी का ये कि स्टिक को मजबूत करने के लिए उनको फ्रेट कॉरिडोर, ये जो सबरीमाला का एक कल्पना प्रधानमंत्री जी और हमारे जो संबंधित मंत्रालय के मंत्री जी हैं, इन सबको ध्यान में देते हुए हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। और मैं कह सकता हूं कि जिस समय हमारे माल ढुलाई में सुगमता और विशेषकर इंडस्ट्री के चाहे रॉ मटेरियल्स को उसको और कैसे हम प्रतिस्पर्धी बनाएं, ये हमारा एक प्रयास है। आपूर्ति श्रृंखला बेंचमार्किंग कार्यक्रम फर्मों को आपूर्ति श्रृंखलाओं में बाधाओं को दूर करने और आवश्यक कार्य निष्पादन संबंधी सुधारों को आगे बढ़ाने में सक्षम बनाता है। चूंकि आपूर्ति श्रृंखला संबंधी ये प्रचालनात्मक होते हैं, इसलिए लागत चक्रकाल, माल सूची और कार्यशील पूंजी में पर्याप्त बचत का इष्टतम उपयोग किया जा सकता है। हमने इस बात की भी कोशिश किया है कि सभी हमारे आपूर्ति श्रृंखला को मार्केटिंग कैसे हम और अच्छा बेहतर बना सकते हैं, इसके सुधारों को भी आगे बढ़ाने के लिए हम सक्षम होता है। जैसे कि लागत चक्रवाल, माल सूची और कार्यशैली पूंजी में पर्याप्त बचत का इष्टतम उपयोग किया जा सकता है। आज की अत्यधिक प्रतिस्पर्धी और वैश्विक बाजार में ग्राहकों के लिए उपयोगी सेवा सृजित और प्रदान करने के नए तरीके खोजने के लिए संगठनों पर दबाव और भी बढ़ जाता है। वैश्विक बाजार में कीमत, गुणवत्ता और सेवा संबंधी आयामों के संदर्भ में अपने उत्पादों के साथ प्रतिस्पर्धा करने की उद्योग की बढ़ती हुई आवश्यकता से परंपरागत रूप से प्रयुक्त प्रणाली की तुलना में अधिक कुशल लॉजिस्टिक प्रणाली विकसित करने की आवश्यकता उत्पन्न हुई है। और इसलिए आप जानते हैं कि ये जो हमारे मार्केट में जिस प्रकार की प्रतिस्पर्धा करने की उद्योगों की बढ़ती हुई आवश्यकता को ध्यान में रखते हुए हमारे लॉजिस्टिक प्रणाली विकसित करने की आवश्यकता जो महसूस हम कर रहे हैं, निश्चित तौर से इसकी जरूरत है। वर्तमान में भारत सरकार भारत इस्पात क्षेत्र में मूल्य श्रृंखला के निचले स्तर पर प्रचालन करता है। मूल्य संवर्धित इस्पात ग्रेड भारत में बड़े पैमाने पर आयात किए जाते हैं। ऐसा उच्चतर लॉजिस्टिक और अवसंरचना लागत, उच्चतर बिजली एवं पूंजीगत लागत और करों एवं शुल्कों की वजह से इस्पात उद्योग में इस्पात की लागत ज्यादा होती है और प्रॉफिट मार्जिन कम होती है। 6,322 करोड़ रुपए के बचती परिव्यय के साथ पीएलआई योजना भारतीय इस्पात क्षेत्र को आवश्यक गति प्रदान करेगी। और मैं कह सकता हूं कि जैसा हम अनुभव करते हैं और हमने कहा भी है कि ऐसे उच्चतर लॉजिस्टिक और अवसंरचना लागत, उच्चतर बिजली एवं पूंजीगत लागत और करों एवं शुल्कों की जो वजह से इस्पात उद्योगों में इस्पात की लागत ज्यादा होती है, ये बात मैंने स्पष्ट तौर से भी ध्यान में आया है। और मैं कुछ मामलों में विदेशी भागीदारों के सहयोग से नई प्रौद्योगिकी के समावेश द्वारा स्थानीय आवश्यकता को पूरा करने के लिए घरेलू उद्योग की बढ़ती हुई क्षमता, जिसके परिणाम स्वरूप अधिक मूल्य संवर्धित उत्पादों की उपलब्धता हुई और यहाँ तक कि क्षमता में वृद्धि हुई, स्पष्ट रूप से भारत के औद्योगिकरण में एक नए अध्याय को इंगित करती है। और ये हमारा एक प्रयास होगा कि परिणाम स्वरूप अधिक मूल्य संवर्धित उत्पादकों की उपलब्धता आज धीरे धीरे बढ़ी है। आसियान देशों जिनके साथ भारत ने FTA पर हस्ताक्षर किए हैं, से आयात जैसे चुनौतियां बढ़ रही हैं, जिनमें से कुछ आयात चीन के मार्ग से होकर किए जाते हैं। भारतीय पूंजीगत वस्तु उद्योग को घरेलू स्रोतों से मूल्य संवर्धित उत्पादों से बढ़ने इन वस्तुओं का उत्पादन करने के लिए स्वदेशी क्षमता विकसित करनी चाहिए। प्रधानमंत्री जी की इच्छा है कि इस दिशा में जो हमारे बड़े बड़े ऐसे उद्योग है, भारतीय पूंजीगत के उद्योगों को घरेलू स्रोत जो हमारे स्थानीय आधार पर जो निर्मित किए जाते हैं, उनके मूल्य संवर्धित उत्पादकों से बनने वाली इन वस्तुओं का उत्पादन करने के लिए हम निश्चित तौर से स्वदेशी क्षमता विकसित करना चाहिए। इसके लिए हम सतत प्रयास कर रहे हैं और यही हमारे आत्मनिर्भर भारत की जो कल्पना प्रधानमंत्री जी ने किया है कि हम इस दिशा में आगे बढ़ करके स्थानीय लोगों को अवसर प्रदान करेंगे ताकि स्थानीय लोगों को रोजगार भी मिले। यह हमारी संकल्पना है और मैं संगठनों को नैतिक सोर्सिंग प्रैक्टिस को अपनाने की आवश्यकता है और इसलिए उन्हें उच्च आर्थिक, सामाजिक एवं पर्यावरणीय मूल्य वाले आपूर्तिकर्ताओं का चयन करना चाहिए और उनके साथ कार्य करना चाहिए। हमें प्रचालन प्रबंधन के एक सिद्धांत पर स्मरण करना चाहिए। केवल कुछ आपूर्तिकर्ताओं के साथ एक स्थिर साझेदारी आमतौर पर अधिक लाभदायक होती है। चयन की प्रक्रिया के साथ समान मूल्यों एवं प्रचालन प्रणालियों वाले आपूर्तिकर्ताओं पर भरोसा किया जा सकता है और यहाँ तक कि लंबी अवधि तक एक साथ आगे बढ़ा जा सकता है। अभी आप सभी लोगों ने कई ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण सुझाव दिए हैं, मैंने उनको नोट भी किया है। मैं निश्चित तौर से जो आप लोगों ने कहा है कि पावर सेक्टर, हमारे स्पोर्ट, स्पेंसर, अनेक ऐसे क्षेत्रों में, बंदरगाहों के बारे में, हमारे उसके बारे में, और मैं कह सकता हूं कि जिन जिन क्षेत्रों में आपने शिपिंग का, पोर्ट्स का, पावर सेक्टर को आगे बढ़ाने के बारे में यूरोपीय कंट्रियों की तुलना आप लोगों ने किया है, मैं ये कह सकता हूं कि इसको लेकर के हम जरूर इसकी चिंता करेंगे। और मैं जब ये आपका डिस्कशन हो, पैनल डिस्कशन के समय कई ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण विषय भी आएंगे जो हमारे पैनलिस्ट हैं वो इस दिशा में जब चर्चा करेंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि और भी सार्थक पहल इस दिशा में होकर के मंत्रालय निश्चित आप लोगों के सुझावों पर चिंता व्यक्त करेगी और हम आगे बढ़ करके देश के विकास में और विशेषकर इंडस्ट्री सेक्टर को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। हम लोकल, रोज ग्लोबल और मेक इन इंडिया फॉरवर्ड के लिए माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के इस विजन के लिए औद्योगिक सहायता की आशा कर रहे हैं, जिससे वास्तविक सकल घरेलू उत्पाद में विनिर्माण क्षेत्र की हिस्सेदारी बढ़कर 25% तक हो सकती है और निर्यात 400 बिलियन अमेरिकी डॉलर तक बढ़ सकती है। मैं आप सभी लोगों को मैं बधाई देना चाहता हूं, विशेषकर इन शब्दों के साथ एसोचैम ने जो प्रयास किए हैं और अपनी बातों को काम देने के पहले मैं चाहूंगा कि प्रमुख औद्योगिक क्षेत्रों पर आधारित इस वैश्विक मूल श्रृंखला सम्मेलन की सफलता के लिए, इसके आयोजन के लिए और इस्पात क्षेत्र से संबंधित मुद्दे जिनका देश के विनिर्माण आधारित विकास पर दूरगामी प्रभाव पड़ता है, करने के लिए एसोचैम को मैं बधाई देना चाहता हूं कि आपने एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सुझाव इस क्षेत्र में और इससे वर्चुअल सम्मेलन के माध्यम से आप लोगों ने इसको शुरुआत किया है। मैं एसोचैम के उन मित्रों को भी बधाई देता हूं और जो सजेशंस आप लोगों ने दिया है मैंने उनको नोट किया है, परंतु जब ये आपका सम्मेलन समाप्त हो और मेन जो हमारे फोकस पॉइंट से उनको भी मैं चाहता हूं कि आप समराइज करते हुए एक जरूर हमको रिपोर्ट भेजेंगे ताकि इस पे पूरा ध्यान दिया जा सके और मंत्रालय की ओर से जो प्रयास किए जा सकते हैं, प्रधानमंत्री जी की जिस प्रकार की संकल्पना है उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए हम जरूर इसके बारे में प्रयास करेंगे। आपकी जो जरूरतें हैं, आज की जो आवश्यकता है, रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, उसको हम पूरा करने में सफल होंगे, ऐसा विश्वास दिलाते हुए मैं आप सभी मित्रों को, विशेषकर हमारे सम के प्रवीण अग्रवाल साहब को और उस पूरी टीम को बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। धन्यवाद, नमस्कार।
मंत्री महोदय, असंख्य धन्यवाद। हम लोग आभारी हैं आपसे। ये बहुत रीअश्योरिंग वर्ड्स हम लोगों ने सुना। आपने बताया अबाउट द थॉट्स, द स्पेसिफिक फोकस द ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैज़ on the national infrastructure project. यहाँ पे more than 1 lakh crore of investment is anyway planned. ये infrastructure project itself हमारा जो demand है for steel, cement and other things जिसको आगे लेके जाएगा, demand growth लाएगा, जिसके वजह से steel बोलिए, cement बोलिए and the related जो भी अपस्ट्रीम का रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, बी इट आयरन ओर और क्रोमाइट और लाइमस्टोन एटसेट्रा, इनका डिमांड बढ़ेगा। सो इट्स अ वेरी वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल फॉर कॉन्सेप्चुअलाइजेशन ऑफ दिस स्पेसिफिक प्रोजेक्ट। आपने हमें ये भी बताया द काइंड ऑफ इंटीग्रेटेड मास्टर प्लान एंड द प्लानिंग दैट इज गोइंग ऑन, बी इट द स्लरी पाइपलाइन नेटवर्क और द डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर और सागरमाला, भारतमाला, जो स्पेसिफिक फ्लैगशिप प्रोग्राम्स है गवर्नमेंट का। वी जस्ट होप कि द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन फोकस इज एनहांस देयर, ताकि ये सब प्रोग्राम जो कॉन्सेप्चुअली वेरी गुड, इन प्रैक्टिस एंड इन रियलिटी ऑल्सो द स्पेसिफिक ऑब्जेक्टिव्स आर मेट, ताकि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में स्पेसिफिक फोकस रहे अलॉन्ग विद क्वालिटी। आपने जॉब क्रिएशन के ऊपर भी क्या फोकस है, बोथ फॉर डायरेक्ट एंड इनडायरेक्ट जॉब्स, ये भी हमें बताया। एंड आई एम श्योर द रेस्पेक्टिव स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, while having their individual plans and aspiration for the state, are keeping this in mind and working closely with the Ministry of Steel and the central government in this regard. आपने हमें ये भी बताया कि ESG जो आजकल चर्चे में है, the ethical business, not just from environmental perspective, but the social obligations as well as the sound governance that every company has to follow, corporate governance, be it the SEBI 49 guidelines or any other. It has become so much important today to have trust of all the stakeholders in the business, which will help ताकि आगे जाके sustainable and profitable growth हो सके of this particular sector. We heard you, sir. We have also heard that ASSOCHAM, on behalf of ASSOCHAM and the Iron and Steel National Council, Dr. Nawal is there, Mr. Sharma, Mr. Dhar and everyone. We will definitely summarize our thoughts. आज के डिस्कशन में काफ़ी कुछ important मुद्दे डिस्कस हुए हैं, जिसको सामने लेकर आप आए हैं in the last 1.5 hours by all of us. We will definitely summarize and through ASSOCHAM would like to submit it to your office, ताकि आप इनके ऊपर जैसा आपको ठीक लगे उस हिसाब से इसको आगे लेके जा सकें। We are very grateful, आभारी हैं हम लोग कि आपने हमारे साथ टाइम बिताया एंड हमारा बात सुना, and then we also heard your point of view. So really very thankful to you, sir, for spending time with us today. Thank you so much. Dr. Nawal, if I may now request you to share any concluding remarks.
मंत्री महोदय, एक बार आपका पुनः धन्यवाद जो आपने मार्गदर्शन दिया, क्योंकि 300 मिलियन टन कैपेसिटी अगले 9 साल में पूरी करनी है, बहुत बड़ी चैलेंजिंग है, पर इंडिया कैपेबल है, इंडस्ट्रीज भी कैपेबल हैं, और जो लॉजिस्टिक के चैलेंजेस हैं और जो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज हैं उसकी अवेलेबिलिटी के जो चैलेंजेस हैं, इस दो चीज के ऊपर हमें गवर्नमेंट का पूरा साथ और मार्गदर्शन चाहिए. अदरवाइज इंडियन इंडस्ट्री, स्टील इंडस्ट्री इज वेरी कैपेबल to handle it and prove it. If we can make it 300 million ton capacity, we can create, which is the dream of the Prime Minister. Under your leadership, and it is possible, and we need your guidance and support on this, so together we can achieve it. Thanks for your coming and guiding us. Mr. V.R. Sharmaji has explained everything in more details, and I don't think it requires more to explain, and you also endorse everything in your speech. आपने अपने भाषण में सब चीजों का जो उल्लेख किया है और जिस तरह के जो कमिटमेंट आपने दिया है आपकी स्पीच से, उससे लगता है कि भी हम लोग इस एरिया में बढ़ पाएंगे और अचीव कर पाएंगे. आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Thank you, and I'm taking this opportunity, Dr. Nawal, to thank you, to Mr. Sharma, Mr. Dhar, Mr. Vaikanto Sahu, Mr. Anil Kumar Sood, Mr. Vivek Bhatia, all the eminent speakers, as well as the larger group of attendees who attended today's session. We are really very thankful to all of you for making this a success. So, Seri, Jaidev, over to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity providing to me for moderating this eminent panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jaidev, Seri, over to you, please.